Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I am asking the question, would you be comfortable voting for president via the internet? Now here's what's going on. This is actually true here in the United States, and for the record, any election would you be comfortable with voting on the internet? This is coming from the Military Times. Now, here's what's going on. A group of election security experts are urging lawmakers to drop plans in the annual defense authorization bill that would allow online ballot casting for troops serving overseas, saying obviously that the security concerns outweigh the potential benefits. And to quote the group that wrote a letter to members of the Senate Armed Services Committee this week, and I quote, "There are solutions to improve military and overseas voting without expanding dangerously insecure voting technology. We believe that service members deserve the highest standard of safe and verifiable voting. For the foreseeable future, internet voting cannot meet that standard and places military voters' vote and the trustworthiness of election systems are at risk." Now, basically, this effort, which includes groups like Protect Democracy and the U.S. Vote Foundation, as well as 27 former state election officials and academics, comes now as the Senate is preparing to complete its draft of essentially the massive defense policy bill in the next few weeks. House lawmakers passed their draft last month and included provisions to provide, quote, "end-to-end electronic voting services for absent uniformed service voters," basically in locations with limited postal options, meaning you're out in the middle of nowhere for the military, you don't exactly have a post office where you can send your ballot back. Now, the language would not immediately allow online voting from locations outside of troops' home states, but would begin developing plans for some time of ballot delivery via the internet. Now, outside advocates say that existing technology for such an effort simply isn't secure enough to consider this idea, and I quote, "At a time when election security and public confidence of our elections are under attack, increased electronic return of voted ballots is not safe or secure and will undermine confidence and trust in elections." I actually happen to agree with that, but we will get to my thoughts soon. Now, ballot delivery for troops living out of state and out of country has been a challenge in the past, especially for troops in remote combat outposts. One of the major obstacles has been the small window in some states, as little as a month, given for voters to receive a ballot, fill it out, and then send it back, and obviously have their vote counted. Obviously, military mail, especially snail mail, moves a lot slower, especially if you're on the other side of the planet, and so you're not going to be basically having the luxury that we have of, mailing something in from, let's say, here, to my local precinct 5 miles away or whatever. Now, officials from the Federal Voting Assistance Program said that about 47% of active duty military members, roughly 660,000 individuals, voted in the 2020 election, the majority through absentee ballots for obvious reasons. That's roughly the same percentage as 2016, the previous presidential election. But the agency estimates that another 90,000 troops who requested absentee ballots for the election never actually received one, or they were unable to return them in time to be counted. Online voting obviously has been touted as a possible solution to this because we can get online instantly anywhere on the planet, and already 4 different states, Arizona, Colorado, Missouri, and North Dakota, allow some voters to electronically submit their ballots so they can be recorded. West Virginia has a mobile voting app available, but only to state residents that are currently living overseas. So if you're from West Virginia and you happen to be living in Europe, you can actually submit your vote via that mobile app, and you're the only one that can do it. Now, 19 other states also allow certain voters to email their ballots. 19 others specifically prohibit any electronic transmission of votes. Now, in lieu of basically internet voting options, the election advocates wrote that lawmakers should consider ways to ease voter registration for the troops, improve ballot delivery processes, and push for extension of state deadlines for receiving completed ballots, specifically from the military, but could be for everybody. Now, after the Senate finalizes the draft of their authorization bill, lawmakers from both chambers of the House will begin reconciling the differences in the 2 drafts and hopefully creating a final bill before the end of September that can be authorized. The authorization bill contains hundreds of spending priorities and policy changes, not just voting, obviously, including the annual pay raise for troops, as well as sweeping changes to how the military justice, in this case, these bills, are handling sexual assault cases. So obviously, this is a vast bill that they are putting, because the military in the United States is vast. Therefore, the spending is vast as well. But voting online is one of those things that I actually happen to agree with. In the sense that it is bad. I don't agree with voting online. I happen to agree with the experts, I should say, that this is not the way we want to go. We have seen consistently and problematically that that votes essentially, or rather internet systems or systems connected to the internet can be insecure, which means they can be hijacked, and that's obviously a problem. And when we are literally living in a time where there is a large percentage, I don't think the majority of the population, but a large enough percentage of the population that believes that the last election was rife with fraudulent voting and malfeasance and all of that, that really starts to undermine that, because now it'd be very easy to say, well, 600,000 votes were clearly hijacked because they came over the internet, thank you military personnel, when that may not simply be the case. Part of what we have here, and part of what I'm talking about here, and I've written about this extensively. I wrote, actually, I think it was like 6 lessons or 7 lessons of the 2020 election from the security standpoint. I wrote that for smirconish.com, is essentially this: we have to build trust in the election system, that we have. I don't think we're going to go 100% back to paper. I'd be thrilled for that. But hardening even the current election machines right now, I think is a good way to go. And to that point, I think creating a better delivery solution, or prioritizing, let's say, ballot mail over the regular letters that, let's say, the troops overseas would possibly write, or other correspondence they would have for that brief time period, I think makes a lot of sense. The military could prioritize the delivery of those, let's say, to the state capitals or wherever they go in each individual state. And we have troops from all 50 states, so all 50 states really need to take this up. But I think basically going through this and having them vote online, even if it ends up not being hit, it basically is right for the accusation of that. In the same way that several voting systems may have vulnerabilities in them, but a vulnerability does not actually equal an intrusion. And that's something that I really talked about with Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium, when I was basically doing a wrap-up video and writing on that evidence of vulnerability is not evidence of actual intrusion. I can be vulnerable in my life. That doesn't mean, somebody's actually intruded on it. So this is obviously a very huge problem. It's going to be hotly debated, but I think there's going to be a push, not just from the military, and the military tends to take the hits on these things. Look at the compliance law, the CMMC, they're taking the hits for the rest of the government at the moment. But if they start allowing online voting, then I think online voting logically would start to trickle into the general population. And you want to talk about undermining the confidence of an election, that will turn it up to 11, at least in our current state. So that's a huge problem. We'll see where this goes, but that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.